ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna and welcome to all of you for this Gita Mastery course where we would be getting into chapter 17. So we have successfully completed chapter 16 and we are hoping that all of you have completed the quiz for chapter 16. Chapter 16, as we remember, was a very interesting chapter where Krishna was talking about the divine and the demoniac, and he was also telling that how the faithful followers of the scriptures, those are the divine people, and those who do not have faith in the scriptures, they are demoniac. So those categories done, and we found it very personally a chapter which was more of a practically driven chapter. Coming up, the next chapter, chapter number 17, the topic of which is the division of faith. Now this chapter also we would see that how it is very, very practical chapter. So in the last chapter, we have already discussed the divine and the demoniac, and the discrimination we saw was on the basis of whether they follow scriptures or not. Now the question may arise that in which category does a person fit in who follows with faith? So he has faith, but that faith is not in the scripture but on something else. So how do we rate him, whether he is a divine person or a demoniac? Because faithfully he is worshipping, but maybe he is worshipping some human being. So not what is prescribed in the scriptures. So this is the question which arises in the mind of Arjun, and that is how this chapter begins. And as we can see that this chapter has total 28 verses, and these are all based on the modes of material nature. So five things we would be discussing in this chapter based on the modes. So let's begin with faith and worship in modes. Arjunuvacha ye shastra vidhimutsrija yajante shraddhayanvitaha tesham nishtha tu ka Krishna sattvam aho rajastamaha.
So here Arjuna is inquiring, ye shastra vidhim utsrija. So those people who have given up the shastra vidhi. Oh Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scriptures but worship according to their own imagination. Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? So, if one with faith follows some rules, but those rules are not mentioned in the scriptures, so neither Bhagavad Gita prescribes them, nor the Vedas prescribe, nor the Srimad Bhagavatam prescribes. So those rules are not mentioned in the Vedas or in the Vedic scriptures, and but person with faith follows certain rules and regulations. So what is his position? So, for example, there are people who create some sort of God. They may select a human being and they may accept that human as God. They may place their faith in him. So, the question would be whether such a worship would it be in goodness, passion, or ignorance. So, the point is that such a person who does not follow the scriptural rules and they engage in some kind of worship, what would they gain real knowledge? Would they gain perfection or liberation? Would they gain success in their worship? So that is the question that Arjuna is asking here. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrinu.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. So here Krishna is telling that basically everything depends on their mode. So which mode are they into? And these mode depends on their previous activities, their previous impressions, and because of that they acquire a body which is predominantly into a certain mode. So they have got that mentality, they have got that nature, they have got that quality of a specific mode, and based on that it depends on whether they are in goodness, passion, and ignorance, and based on that whether they follow Vedas and how do they how do they worship or where their faith is placed. So all those division happens basically on the modes they are into.
So bottom line is that if either they follow Vedas, then they are transcendental. But if they do not follow Vedas, then they'll follow their mentality or nature, which would either be in goodness or passion or ignorance.
An interesting part here is that one can change his position from lower modes to goodness by accepting a bona fide spiritual master and following his instructions. So it is not necessary that one who has acquired a quality, one who's embodied and is fixed in mode of ignorance, he can actually change that. So the whole key to this lies in accepting a bona fide spiritual master and surrendering unto him. Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddha mayoyam purusho Yo yat shraddha sa eva saha.
O son of Bharat, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So a person, as we were discussing in the previous verse, as a person acquires a certain modes of because of the previous activities that he was involved in, based on the association that he was involved in, so he has a particular kind of mode of nature. He is either predominantly rajasic or sattvic or tamasic, and based on that he has a particular kind of faith. So here this word sattva is used.
Sattvanurupa sarvasya.
Sattvanurupa sarvasya. So the Acharyas has explained that it is it refers to the heart or the antakaran, that we have the subtle elements like the mind, intelligence, false ego, memory. So that is all considered as an internal organ or heart. And this heart is what holds the impressions of the modes from previous lifetimes. So the heart may be influenced by goodness or by passion or by ignorance. So things like what do we believe in, and if you see that it varies from person to person based on his mode. So what does the person believe in? What do we believe in? What are the kind of personalities that we trust? What kind of principles or things that I value. So that is all determined by the position of the heart and what kind of mode it is being influenced by. And based on this, we have a particular kind of faith. So one's faith can be categorized into one of the three modes. So, what kind of a person, for example, some people adore movie actors. Some people adore
Politicians.
politicians. Yeah, I mean, there are people who even commit suicide. We have this, they do not win an election, or like when a prominent politician dies, there are examples of people committing suicide. So based on whom they adore or what they have reference to, reverence for the person they have reverence for, and accordingly they begin to worship that person. So if this will be discussed further, so if somebody has adoration and reverence for devatas, then he has sattvic faith. If he has adoration and reverence for demons, then he is in rajogun. If he has adoration, reverence, worship of subtle entities like the bhutas and pretas, the ghosts, then his, of course, his worship and faith is in tamoguna. Yajante satvika devan yaksha rakshasi
Rajasaha.
yaksha rakshamsi rajasaha pretan bhuta ganamshanye yajante tamasa janaha.
Yajante satvika devan. Yajante means worshipping. Yajante. So, satvik or mode of goodness, whom do they worship? Devan or the demigods. Yaksha rakshamsi rajasaha. Rajasaha here refers to rajogun or mode of passion. So they worship whom? Rakshasa and Yaksha, or Prabhupada translated as demons. And pretan bhutan ganamshchanye yajante tamasa janaha. So whom do the people in mode of ignorance or tamas worship? Bhuta, pret and etc. So that is the category whom they worship. So different people, based on their mode, different modes, they choose different personality, or they feel inspired by different personality, and that is how they end up worshipping different people. So we worship somebody for whom our heart is full of gratitude, whom we accept completely superior than us, and whom we know can help us if we are in difficulty. So those are the people whom we approach with a mood of awe and reverence, and we end up worshipping. So people in mode of goodness, they follow the scriptures and they understand the demigods, their position, they worship them. In passion, they worship demons, and in ignorance, they worship ghosts and spirits.
And this verse also describes why there are different kinds of religions that exist in this material world. Because they are not following the scriptures, so they may worship according to their modes.
So faith and worship, we discuss goodness, passion and ignorance. Based on that intrinsic quality, they choose whom they want to worship. And we must remember, those who are not conversant with the scripture or do not have complete faith in them worship anyone other than the Supreme Lord Krishna. So if I don't have faith in Krishna, if I don't have faith in scriptures, then I would definitely have problems in worshipping Krishna, and I may raise so many questions about him itself, about the integrity and about the conduct of the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. Why? Because I don't have faith in the scriptures. Ashastra vihitam ghoram tapayante ye tapo janaha dambhahankara samyukta kamaraga balanvitaha karashyantah sharirastam bhutagramam achetasaha mam chaivantah sharirastam tan vidhi asura nishchayaha. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the super soul dwelling within, are known to be demons.
So not just the form of faith and worship that these people do, here there's a discussion of the severe austerities and penance that they do. So these severe austerities, these tapasya and the austerities and the penances are not as per the guidelines of the scriptures. So these people, it is not that just whimsically they are doing, they are actually acting against the Vedic principles. So such people, whatever is in the mentioned the ways, they actually go against and perform these. So they do it out of pride and egoism. They are impelled by lust. In fact, it harms their own body. It troubles the super soul within, and it may be as well harmful to other living entities. And sometimes they just do it as a display of wealth and power, to impress others, or it could be done out of it's mentioned here, impelled by lust. So they have so much of lust, a particular kind of strong desire they have, and therefore they do such austerities. Sometimes even different kinds of fasting people do to reduce weight or other things, which are actually goes against the principles of say for example Ayurvedic principles or something. Like there are certain diets which comprise almost entirely of meat, which is meant to reduce the fat content in the body or things like that. So all that is considered to be in demoniac, which is being done against the scriptural rules. So demoniac austerity, like here we have the example of Hiranyakashipu. If we read about his austerity, it is mind-blowing. He was standing on the tip of his toes with his hands outstretched for thousands and thousands of years. And that's what his situation was. His body was actually eaten up by the ants. An ant hill had built around, and it's mentioned that his life air was just moving in his bones because the flesh was also almost gone. So these people undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures. And why was Hiranyakashipu performing this austerity? He wanted to become more powerful than Vishnu and to kill him. So out of pride and egoism, he was impelled by lust. So here in this case, he was impelled by a great desire to kill the killer of his brother Hiranyaksha. So much attachment he had for his brother, and because of that he was performing this austerity. And because of this severe austerity of his, the whole universe was disturbed, the devatas were disturbed, the whole setup of the universe was so troublesome that they had to approach Brahmaji, and Brahmaji had to come and request Hiranyakashipu, okay, stop this type of tapasya. So such foolishly they torture the body as well as the super soul within. So the ultimate end of a demoniac person is to be perpetually cast into this cycle of birth and death. We also saw in the previous chapter where Krishna had in detail discussed that how the demoniac are born in demoniac species. That is where Krishna perpetually, the word perpetually was used, cast into this demoniac species. The only rescue is to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. So this point is coming again and again and again and again, that if we are left to ourselves, we would eventually harm ourselves. We need good association, especially association of spiritual master, devotees of the Lord, and then we can actually rescue ourselves in this ocean, unlimited ocean of samsara.
आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य
त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदम् इमं शृणु.
So Krishna is telling that I have already described now that how there are based on the modes, people choose the faith and people choose the personality whom they worship. And now he is talking about 5 other things. He is talking about ahar or food one person eats. He also talks about yagyas or sacrifices one perform, tapas or austerities one perform, and danam or charity one does. So faith and worship, food, sacrifice, austerity, and charity. Total 5 things he would be talking in this chapter, which is divided on the basis of the kind of material mode or the modes of material nature a person is influenced
Four
by.
things.
4 here and 1 he has already
Yeah,
completed.
that's
So total 5.
all. Yes,
All
all our
our
lifestyle choices.
Yes.
All our lifestyle choices indicate our modes. So here different things were mentioned, like what kind of charity we do, what kind of food we eat, what kind of austerity that we perform. So all the lifestyle choices indicate our mode. The good part is that by choosing what we associate with, we get to choose our modes. Hence, there is a chance to elevate ourselves. So there is a choice of food. Depending on what food we eat, we can change our modes. What kind of charity we give, that also helps us, change our mode. So that this, as Sugita is explaining, is a very practical chapter, and but mentioned especially for people who do not follow scripture injunctions.
So getting into the next section, food in the modes, and then we will also see sacrifice, austerity, and charity in the modes. Ayuh sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasaya snigdha sthira hridaya ahara satvika priyaha. Ahar means food, satvika priyaha. So person who has sattvic qualities, or a person who's in mode of goodness. So what type of food he prefers? So it is mentioned ayu means age. So the food, if we are eating the food in the mode of goodness, then that food increases my ayu or increases my duration of life. Then bala and arogya, which means purifies one's existence and gives strength. It gives me strength. It also keeps me arogya, which means I do not get into any health issues. And then sukh or happiness, and preeti vivardhanaha, or we feel happiness and satisfaction. So when we eat food like this, which is in mode of goodness, so it actually purifies me completely. It makes me immune towards the other diseases, and it gives me a sense of satisfaction. So when I eat that food, I feel satisfied. I experience happiness. The food is not very difficult to digest for my stomach, and it does not give me any immediate difficulty or any difficulty in later on also. And such food, it is described, it is rasayah snigdha and sthira hridaya, which means these foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. So these type of food, like let's talk about the grains, different varieties of grains. Now we put them into the category of carbohydrates, and we feel that oh, if I eat carbs and I'll put on weight. But actually those type of food which is like nicely rich in carbs and grains, basically like rice, wheat, milk, etc. So that food comes in the mode of goodness.
And here Prabhupada explains that fatty, nowadays, and people slaughter animals for animal fat, but Prabhupada says that the best way of consuming animal fat is through the milk.
Dairy products.
The dairy products, yeah. Especially cow milk is considered to be very purifying. So, and we can definitely derive milk. From milk we get curd, we get butter, we get ghee, we get cheese. So all that is the right source of fat, and also protein. Doctors unfortunately prescribe a lot of meat for protein. So there is dal, and then there is split peas and others, which are very good source of protein which can be had. So these foods, all these items that are mentioned here, and as Sugita is explaining about the wheat and the rice and milk and sugar and all these things which are there, they should also be pure. They should not be in impure state for consumption. So when they are pure and these items are consumed, then these are very dear to people who are in Sattva Gun. Katam amala lavanati ushna tikshana ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha shoka maya pradaha. Foods that are katav, which means very too bitter. Amala too sour, lavanati, too salty, ushna, very hot, tikshna, very pungent, ruksha, very dry, vedahina, burning, are dear to those in the mode of passion. So I'm sure, I mean, if you know people, maybe you yourself, some of us may have such preferences that food, they like food which is very, very bitter, like neem. Some people have a preference. In the start of the meal, they will have neem leaves. They will fry a little and mix with the rice and eat, or they'll make a ball of neem and they will eat. So some may take it for medicinal use. That is okay. But if they have a preference for such a food and they like it, then there it is in mode of Rajoguna, or something very sour. So lot of tamarind, and so that is too sour. That is also considered in mode of passion. Very salty, and ushna, which is hot, and tikshna means very pungent, like strong pepper. Ruksha, certain kinds of millets which are very dry. Vidahina means burning, which means if we eat the food, the mouth burns, and sometimes the throat also burns. So those kind of foods which people prefer are in mode of passion. Sometimes the food is so hot, we don't even want the temperature to come down from 90 degrees. We want to put in mouth at that temperature, and the lips will burn, sometimes mouth will burn. But I have an experience of such friends. So that foods cause distress, misery, and disease. So while eating such food creates pain, if you're eating very pungent food, very hot, the saliva is not enough. The saliva coating of the mouth is not enough. So mouth will burn, then stomach will burn, and it will produce sorrow after eating, and later it will create diseases, the disorder of the blood.
Yata yamam gata rasam
Puti paryushitam chayat uchishtam api cha medhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam.
So here is a description of that bhojan which is priya to the tamas, or people in mode of ignorance. So food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. So the qualities of such a food, it is mentioned, the first point itself is, which is more than 3 hours old. So now in today's time, we see that most of the food what people eat, or rather all the food which we pick up from the shelves and we are eating, we go out, we buy and we eat. So everything is prepared for more than 3 hours ago.
I'm just thinking, when we go and some look for bread, what do you say? Fresh? Is this bread fresh? Arey Baba, how it is fresh? It is already, life is 6 days.
So food is prepared for more than 3 hours. That is considered to be in mode of ignorance. And then food which is tasteless, decomposed, putrid, and any jutha food, and somebody else had eaten and I'm eating. I mean, it's not that the person has to leave it and then I eat. Even if I'm sitting on a table, like most of the time when we are having lunch in the office or with friends in the college. So
or in school, children open
college
their lunch
school,
boxes.
yeah, whatever. So we share the lunch from the lunch boxes directly, and we keep eating from the same thing. So that is actually it is actually uchishta, or it is not, it is in mode of ignorance. So we are not supposed to eat such food. We are not supposed to eat food which is tasteless or which is stale, which has gone bad. So all these things are considered to be impure, and one must not take it, especially things like tobacco or meat or liquor. So these are completely in mode of ignorance. So we discussed 3 categories of food. Goodness is wholesome, juicy, pleasing, and ultimately it gives us long life. It is purifying, and it gives strength, disease-free, and happiness.
Food in passion is bitter, sour, hot, pungent, burning. It causes distress while eating, sorrow later, and creates disease.
And food in mode of ignorance is tasteless, decomposed, and untouchable thing. And ultimately, it causes us infection. Infection, why? Because if we will eat jhutha food, then of course we will get infected. So, infection, disease, contaminating, and early death. So, now whatever is our favorite food, we can try and put in one of these windows and see what type of food generally I prefer. Do I prefer food which is in goodness or passion and ignorance? And become aware of the result. And we can change our mode also. We can shift to goodness by eating food which is in mode of goodness.
So one example, we had this huge experience of coronavirus, and we also understand that this is particular virus jumped from the what is it called, zoonotic infection, jumped from the wild animals. It jumped from animals into the human species. So of course, how does it jump? It doesn't jump, just like that. There are animals which are roaming around, doesn't, fly in and come to us. Of course, when we kill and we eat those animals, then we are really at a very serious risk. And, there is news of newer viruses which are jumping species, especially into human. So we see that because that food is in mode of ignorance. So we should, if we consume that kind of food, it's mentioned, infection, diseases, contamination, early death is all that we can expect from it. And these foods are in different modes. Of course, prasadam is beyond goodness, passion, and ignorance. We offer to the Lord what can be offered to the Lord, and those are all items in goodness that can be offered to the Lord. And when we offer it with love and affection, with tulsi and with proper prayers, we request the Lord to accept the naivedyam, then it becomes prasadam. Then even if it is old,
more than 3 hours.
Yeah, even if it is more than 3 hours, it is not in ignorance. It continues to remain in Shuddha Sattva.
And those of us, after listening to this portion, who are feeling inspired to offer food, so we have this course on our website, Worship at Home, where in detail we have discussed as how to offer food to Krishna. So request you all to do that course. It's a self-paced course and you can do at your own convenience. But it is sort of a must if we really are serious about progressing in Krishna consciousness.
Getting out of the modes.
And here is the life lesson, a very interesting one. We are what we eat. So please keep in mind what we are eating, because we become influenced by the modes of the food and we get into that mode. Moving to the next section, sacrifices in different modes. So next 3 verses, 11, 12 and 13. Let's see.
Afalakanshibhiryagyo vididishto yaetyate yashtavyam meviti manaha samadhaya sasatvikaha. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the direction of scriptures as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness. So here, if we see, the first word is afalakanshibhir. So this person who is performing the sacrifice, yagya, but he does not have akanksha for a phala. So he is afala akanshibhir, which means he is performing this sacrifice not for any reward, but he is performing this sacrifice according to the direction of the scriptures. He is doing because he should do, because it is a scriptural injunction, because Vedas tell us to do this sacrifice and therefore we should do. Not that, what will I gain from this? So there is, nowadays, or whatever, the understanding is that one should visit a place of worship if one wants something. Otherwise, there is no need to worship, visit a place of worship. So what is the use of going to a temple if we don't want any? I mean, we have everything that we want. So the point is, what is mentioned here is that if for some economic advancement, worshipping God is rejected actually for a person in mode of goodness. He does it as a matter of duty. So one should actually visit a temple, offer his gratitude, offer his respect to the deity, because he must, he should, because that is described in the scriptures. Abhisandhyatu phalam dambhartham api chaivayat ejyate bharata shrestha tam yagyam vidhi rajasam.
but the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in mode of passion. So now Krishna is talking about the sacrifice performed in mode of passion. And what are the qualities of such a sacrifice? That this is performed, one, for a material benefit. So even if I am visiting to temple, even if I am chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, even if I am studying Gita mastery course, I am actually looking for some material benefit. I am looking for a stress-free life. So what is happening? It's a material benefit, tangible or intangible. So if I'm doing any activity of sacrifice for a material benefit or for the sake of pride. So it is very prestigious to have a guru. So that is why I want a guru also. All my friends have. Or let me organize a big, let's say, Devi Jagran or Bhagavad Saptah or something like that, because it will bring a lot of attention to me.
Prestige.
Yeah, it is a matter of prestige. My friends would praise me for that. So if I'm doing a sacrifice but for these purpose, then it is done in mode of passion.
And here we see that the sacrifice that we are all expected to perform in Kali Yuga is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is Sankirtan Yagya that we must perform. And of course, we can try and keep that Yagya as pure as possible so we can avoid these things. Vidhihinam asrishtanam mantrahinam adakshinam shraddha virahitam yagyam tamasam parichakshate. Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of scriptures, vidhihinam, without distribution of prasadam, asrishtanam. So,
Anna card distribution.
so there is no distribution of prasadam, mantrahinam, without chanting of Vedic hymns, and adakshinam, there is no remuneration given to the priest, and without faith is considered to be in mode of ignorance. Shraddha virahitam yagyam. So of course, then I don't know why this person is performing this yagya. Yeah. He is not following the scripture injunctions. He is not distributing any prasadam. The mantras that are chanted, they are not chanted with proper pronunciation, with the proper meter. It's just something is being chanted, and this person is actually having some inimical attitude towards the priest. For some reason he's inimical. He's not willing to give him any dakshina or any remuneration. So some animosity is there, and he does not have faith. But still, if he gets engaged in the performance of a sacrifice, then it is in mode of ignorance.
So goodness as per scripture, as a matter of duty and for no reward.
Passion means for some material benefit and for the sake of pride.
And the ignorance. So 5 things were mentioned, that without direction of scriptures, without distribution of prasadam, without chanting of Vedic hymns or improper chanting of Vedic hymns, without remuneration for the priest, and without faith also. So such is in mode of ignorance. So let's move to the next section, austerity in the modes.
Devadvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Shaucha Marjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsa Cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. Austerities of the body consist in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, the superiors like father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. So actually, when we were discussing this particular section, so we will be discussing the austerity, and austerity is of the body, austerity of the words, austerity of the mind. So those of you who are attending Devotion in Action program, we discussed today also, and we discussed on Thursday, and the next session we'll be discussing about the austerities of the mind. So here the austerity of the body is explained, consists of what? It consists of pujanam, of whom? Worship of the Deva, in this context, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Duja, the Brahmanas, the Guru, the spiritual master, and other superiors like father and mother. So here all these things are mentioned in the graphical form. Austerity of the body means the worship. So these are the from superior to inferior. So that's how the worship is conducted. And of course, we understand cleanliness means cleanliness externally of the body by taking bath, internally by chanting the holy names. And then we have simplicity. So simplicity, Arjava, means that one being simple, straightforward. It also means sincerity, which means that we perform two things. Whatever is mentioned in the scriptures, we perform. Whatever is prohibited in the scriptures, we do not perform. So that is also simplicity. Celibacy, we understand that it is sex life as per the Vedas, as per the scripture injunctions, and non-violence. So this is the austerity of the body. If we perform these activities, then we become pure from a bodily point of view. Anudvegam karam vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva
Vanmayam tapa uchyate.
vanmayam tapa.
So here it is describing the austerity of speech. So first Krishna is describing, so in that previous verse he talks about austerity of body, now austerity of speech, in the next verse austerity of mind, and then he will go to describe that all three combined, how it is in mode of goodness, in passion and in ignorance. So what is the austerity of speech? It consists of speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. So basically 5 points are mentioned here, and these 5 points are, first is about the speaking in a manner which is not agitating to others. So sometimes we speak something, we are very blunt, and it may hurt the other person. So even if we are speaking truthful words, but we have to see that it is not agitating or disturbing others. So second point is speaking truthful words. So truthful words spoken in a pleasant manner or in an acceptable manner, which does not disturb others. And the third is pleasing. And fourth, that what we are speaking should be beneficial to other. So which means no gossiping, no fault finding, no unnecessary criticism, because all these would not follow the austerity of speech. So only if, so even if I dislike certain thing about the other person, but if I go and tell that other person, would that benefit that other person or would that agitate the other person? So that is the barometer we need to keep checking, and all that would come how? It all comes from regularly reciting the Vedic literature. So when we do Swadhyay, when we do Vedic study, when we study the scripture, then we understand that what is actually, which is the most beneficial thing for all living entity. And then we know that it is Krishna Katha, or instructions of Krishna. So those are the real beneficial things, and those beneficial things, how can we package it beautifully so that the other person feels inspired to do it? So that is actually the austerity of speech. And here is a life lesson. Apply these filters when speaking. Is it true? If it is not true, don't speak. Is it pleasing? If it is hurtful, again, don't speak. Think how to speak that it becomes pleasing. And third is it beneficial? Ultimately, is it going to benefit the other person? Manah prasada saumyatvam.
Manaha prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhiriti etat tapomana samuchyate. So this is tapomanasam, so the austerity of the mind. And so Krishna is continuing their description. And satisfaction, manha prasada, simplicity, gravity, self-control and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So here we have the gravity of thought, maunam. Prabhupada talks about it substantially in the purport. So he says that gravity means that one always thinks of self-realization, one always thinks of Krishna consciousness, one is always thinking how I can advance in spiritual life. That is the goal, that somehow or other, how can I develop love for God? And that is how he obtains so much of gravity in his mind, that it is just not running here and there. Next is very, very important. The first thing which Krishna mentions in the opening line is mana prasada, which means that the mind is satisfied. Now, mind is satisfied means our experience till the time we continue to think of sense objects, our mind will continue to be agitated. Because either we don't have that object, so it will be agitated to acquire it. If we have it, then still the mind is agitated because I continue to think that how can I protect and continue to use in my sense enjoyment. So the mind is not satisfied. So it can be only satisfied if I do not or minimize thinking of sense objects. So that is how the mind can be brought to the point of satisfaction. If we don't do that, we will continue to live in a very, very dissatisfied way. Simplicity means saumyatvam, which means that we act without duplicity towards other. If we are duplicitous, which means if we act out of cruelty towards others and desiring my happiness over others, so which means if we act in win-lose situation, then the mind will continue to be very, very agitated. So here what is mentioned is simplicity means that he desires everyone's happiness. And then self-control. Self-control means we should withdraw from sense objects. The mind should be withdrawn from sense gratification, sense enjoyment. Then only some control will come over the senses. So, of course, for devotees, we understand it's very simple. We engage the tongue in chanting. We engage the tongue in tasting Krishna Prasad. We engage the ear in hearing, the glories of the Supreme. So, like that, we engage the senses. And that's how the senses and the mind naturally become controlled. And finally, purify one's existence, bhava samshuddhi. So, which means that we purify our nature. So Prabhupada mentions a very beautiful point. He says that there are so many wonderful Vedic scriptures which have amazing stories, very satisfying stories like Puranas and the Mahabharata. So we can read those stories. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are very, very instructive pastimes of the devotees of the Lord. So by that, we hear and we can purify our consciousness. Shraddhaya paraya taptam तपस्तत्त्रिविधं नरहि अफलाकांक्षिभिर्युक्तैः सात्विकं परिचक्षते.
This threefold austerity, which means austerity of body, speech, and mind. Threefold. So this threefold austerity performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme is called austerity in goodness. So I am performing the austerity of body, austerity of words, austerity of mind, just because I know that this would be pleasing to the Supreme Lord. Just because I know that this is what is stated in the scriptures and I must be doing it as my duty. So if I am doing it in that manner with faith in the scriptures, then actually it is happening as an austerity in goodness. Satkarmana pujartham tapodambena chaiva yat kriyate tad iha proktam rajasam chalamadhruvam.
So these are the austerities performed in mode of passion. So what is it mentioned? Satkar. Satkar means that the austerity is performed for earning some praise. Then somebody should say, "Oh, great ascetic, great, very, very austere person." So to hear that,
eating only one meal a day.
Yeah. So if one is deriving that others should praise me for that austerity, then it is in mode of passion or man, which means when we walk in and others get up from their seat to show us respect. So I am performing austerity so that people offer me such respect with their bodies, or they offer puja, or they offer some artham, which means, because I'm performing such great, known as a very great austere sage, so they wash my feet, they offer me some gift. So if I'm doing that austerity to receive this satkar, man, puja, artham, So and I do it out of such pride, then it is a mode of passion.
मूढग्राहेणात्मनो यत् पीडया क्रियते तपः परस्योत्सादनार्थं वा तत्तामसम् उदाहृतम्. Penances performed out of foolishness, with self-torture, or to destroy or injure others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So just like, for example, let's say if my teenage child wants something and I'm not interested, I'm not giving him the permission, let's say for a night out or for partying till midnight, he's not getting permission. So what he starts doing, he says that, okay, I will not eat. And a little more, I'll not drink anything also. Because unless you allow me, I will not eat or drink anything. Or I'll run away from the house. Or I will commit suicide. So all these are actually self-torture to destroy or injure others. So things like that, which is performed out of foolishness, a person is torturing oneself or a person is injuring the other one. So this type of austerity of body, of mind, of words, this is in mode of ignorance. I'll not speak to you because I'm very angry with you. So unless you fulfill my desire, I'm not going to talk to you. So monam. But then monam is not for meditating on self-realization, but to torture the other person. So such austerities come in mode of ignorance.
Or like people fast for political ends, or they perform, the suicide, they commit, they wear those
self-immolation.
Self-immolation, yes. Nowadays it's not happening, but there was a time when so many people just self-immolate, for some political reasons. And so the suicide, what is it called? Suicide bombers. Yeah, so all that would come in this.
So austerity in mode of goodness, done with transcendental faith, not expecting material benefits and only for the sake of supreme.
In passion, which is done out of pride, it is for the sake to receive respect, honor and worship. It is neither stable nor permanent.
And in mode of ignorance, out of foolishness, with self-torture or to destroy or injure others. Being austere is not enough. Is it pleasing to the Supreme Lord and His devotees? That is the question we must ask ourselves. And moving to the last section for the day, charity in the modes. So we will see charity in mode of goodness, passion and ignorance.
Datvayam iti yaddanam diyate anupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam. Charity given out of duty without expectation of return at the proper time and place and to a worthy person is considered to be in mode of goodness. So datvayam means that the conviction is there. Why I am performing charity? Because I am convinced that I must give charity. And it's not that I'm being forced to give or somebody is telling me to give. I'm doing because I know that it is my duty and I must give that charity. So this qualities of a person in mode of goodness. Patre, if you see in the third line, so this person identifies the right person to give charity. So who's the right person? A suitable person, which means the person to whom I'm giving charity, that person can give me protection with his knowledge and with his austerity, which means what he will use my money for, the dhanam which I'm giving. So it can be given. So who's the best person to receive? Who's the best patra? When I'm giving charity, that person should be in a position to help me with his knowledge. He should be in a position to help me with his usage of that Lakshmi. So if we see devotees, Vaishnavas are the best, or an institution like iskcon is probably the best place, where best path to whom we can direct all our donation or charity. So that is not just goodness, it is pure goodness. And then another beautiful quality of this person is anupakarine, which means that he gives charity, but he does not really expect anything in return. He is not expect any reimbursement. I'm giving you now, but later if I have a problem, I'll ask you. And so it is not like that. or he does not want any recognition also. So that is all qualities in mode of goodness. And then we have Desha Kal. Desh means the proper place, ideally a holy place. Kal means the proper time or an auspicious time. So if you look at this verse indicates that Danam should not be given indiscriminately. Krishna is not saying that, irrespective of whom we are giving, I have to give, I will just give and go away. So that is not recommended by the Lord.
Yattu pratyupakaratham phalam uddishya va punaha diyate cha pariklishtam taddanam rajasam smritam. But charity performed with the expectation of some return or with a desire for fruitive result or in a grudging mood is said to be charity in the mode of passion. So three specific qualities are mentioned here of a person who does charity in mode of passion. So first thing is expectation of some return. So what would I gain? So will I be going to Swargaloka if I do this charity, or will I have my better future? Like, is there some assurance? Is there some guarantee if I am doing this, or with a desire of a fruitive result? So I am giving so much in charity. What size of the name board you will put in your temple walls to tell people that I have donated so much money? So what is happening is I am giving, but simultaneously I am negotiating on what would be my result. So I'm doing this and what do I get in result? Or the third quality is in a grudging mood. So I don't want to give anything, but my husband has been forcing me, or my wife has been pushing me, or my boss has been pushing me. My boss is associated with this particular sanstha or organization, and he's pushing me that you have to give this portion of your salary. And now if I want to please my boss, I must oblige him. So in a grudging mood, I don't want to give, but I am forced to give. So such type of charity is in mode of passion. Adeshakale yad danam apatre bhayascha diyate asatkritam avagyatam tattamasam udahritam.
So this describes the charity in mode of ignorance. The charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, to unworthy person, or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So here we see that this charity in mode of ignorance is practically opposite of what is the charity performed in mode of goodness. So it is performed at the wrong place or impure place, impure time, to unworthy person. So for example, if somebody, we know, if I give money to this person, next thing he will do is go to a liquor shop and drink. So by giving him money, one, we are not helping him. Second, with what he's putting this money to use to, I will definitely not get any spiritual advancement. In fact, I will get sinful reactions for it. So that is there. And another thing that we can notice from this is that even if I'm giving to a worthy person, I'm giving at the right time, I'm giving at the right place, but I'm not giving with proper respect. I'm not giving that donation or the charity with proper attention. Sometimes what happens is that the parents are very religious and they're nice devotees, but the children do not have that kind of a attitude. So sometimes the parents involve their children also in some charity, but the children act in this manner, because they don't believe in this. So even if parents tell them to give charity, so they do it with disrespect or without proper attention. So that also comes under mode of ignorance.
So we heard just now about charity in mode and goodness. It is out of duty, no expectation, proper time, place, and to a worthy person.
In passion, the person expects returns. He does it for his enjoyment, for future enjoyment, because charity means some piety, and therefore how he can use that piety later, or he does it in a grudging mood.
And in ignorance to at an impure place, improper time, and unworthy person. So here it is talking about the charity. Krishna is talking about charity in different modes, and somehow we are just welcoming the Janmashtami festival. Krishna Gokulashtami, Krishna is about to appear, and all over the world we would be celebrating this festival at a very grand occasion, and especially in Chennai, because this year, after 3 years, we are opening the temples. So all the charities are welcome, and this charity would be in mode of Shuddha Sattva or pure goodness. It is not in ignorance, it is not in passion, it is not in goodness also. It's beyond that. So all you have to do is visit our website studygita.com/donate, right? /donate. You can see the website here on your screens. So here we can do the charity for Janmashtami. As I can see, as of now, 92 people have logged in Zoom. So even if each one of you give a donation of 1001 rupees, it would be amazing, because we can all together, this batch of Gita Mastery course can contribute at least 90,000 rupees towards the Janmashtami celebration. So it's our humble request to each and every one of you. So kindly think about it, plan it. This is the best time of the year to give charity, because this is Krishna's birthday. So we are gaining so much from him, and it is our time to show whatever gratitude we have towards the Supreme Lord. So you can visit this website after the class or whenever before Janmashtami, and we welcome your charity. So here is a life lesson from this one, that Krishna and his devotees do not depend on our charity. We must always remember this also. Krishna does not depend on charity. Rather, it is a fortune if they accept charity from us. We give for our purification and advancement. And also that shows that how much love we have for Krishna. Because the other life lesson is also very interesting, which is coming up, that Krishna does not see what we give. He sees what we are holding back. So how much money I have, and out of that, how much I am willing to give to Krishna. So when we give a gift, so the gift, I mean, generally the trend is that we see ki whom we are giving gift. Like if my maid's daughter is getting married, I may give a smaller thing. And if somebody who's very rich and famous, and his daughter is getting married and I'm invited, I may give a very like suitable gift, thinking that okay, so I must give a very expensive gift. But actually I should give based on where I stand, not based on where the other person, the one who's receiving, stands. So because Krishna does not see what we give, he sees what we are holding back. So how much do I have, and how much I am willing to present to Krishna. So that is the mood which we should have while giving charity.
And here we have the picture. If you look at the picture, shows Vamandev in the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj is there, his spiritual master Shukracharya is there behind him, and Shukracharya is telling him, don't give charity. He is Vishnu, he'll steal everything from you. He has come here to cheat you. You should not do this. And then he gives, from different scriptures, he gives different reasons why. Even if you have made a promise, Bali, it's okay. You can tell a lie and not give charity to Vamandev. Whereas Bali Maharaj is very fixed up. He says, in fact, he was determined to give the charity. He did not even want to discuss, but he knew that there are so many of his demon followers are there, and they should know his determination. So therefore, he begins to explain, and he explains very, very beautifully. One of the points that what he says is that anyway, all that I have will invariably go away from me at the time of death. And if the Supreme Lord himself has come and he is asking for charity, then why I should not give to him? So what could be more auspicious than giving him of what he is asking? So it's a very beautiful conversation. The reason and the logic which Bali Maharaj explains, and then he gives the charity. And then we see that Vamandev, actually Bali Maharaj, out of his love for the Lord, he gives everything, and Vamandev actually takes everything away from Bali Maharaj. And of course, then everything is also returned to Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj is also promised that he will become Indra in future, because that was his desire.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So with this, we have come to an end to this beautiful section of Bhagavad Gita where we had lots and lots of things which we can personally do audit and which we can fix in our lives. So we will stop here. Looking forward to see all of you on next Saturday. And we are here for another 10 minutes. So in case if you have any questions, you can raise your hands and we'll take your questions. Hare Krishna.